Every human being on this planet experiences the same strange phenomenon. There's a voice we all have inside our head. It shows up when we're making decisions, when we're questioning ourselves, when we're trying to figure out what's actually true. And whether we like it or not, none of us escape it. That voice has been narrating parts of our lives for as long as we can remember. It comments, it questions, sometimes it criticizes, sometimes it encourages. But here's the part that can be disorienting. Most of us assume that voice is who we are. But the truth is much more complex than that. At some point in life, almost everyone asks the same question. Sometimes quietly, sometimes in frustration, sometimes while screaming into the mirror. Who the fuck am I? And most people assume the answer should be simple. But the truth is, that question gets confusing because there isn't just one voice happening inside your mind. There are several systems interacting all the time. And when you don't realize that, or even if you do realize it, but forget to stay mindful of it, you can end up believing every thought in your head is coming from the same place, and that they're all true. But it isn't, and they're not. Now, I'd like to break down what I call the four minds, or the four selves, that shape our reality. One of the voices most of us notice first is the conscious mind, also known as the ego. The thinking mind, the part that analyzes, the part that talks things through, the part that tries to make sense of your life. This is the voice that asks questions like, what should I do? Why did that happen? Did I handle that right? It's the part we usually call I. The ego is the part of the mind constantly trying to find patterns and make sense of them. And depending on how your mind learned to operate, that voice might sound less like a narrator and more like an inner bully. But this voice is heavily influenced by other systems running in the background, systems most of us aren't even aware of. Underneath that ego is another system entirely, the subconscious mind. When we get to the subconscious, or what I think of as the RAM drive, much like the Akashic records, this is where deeper patterns and memory beyond this life reside. I personally think of it as our subservient mind. Not sub because it's lesser, but because it's meant to serve us. It's like a massive internal record keeper. Everything you've experienced, every pattern your brain has learned, every emotional response your body has practiced, every memory your mind has stored, and even what I believe your soul carries is recorded there. This part of your brain stores your habits, your learned beliefs, your emotional patterns, your past experiences, and in my opinion, the memories of past lives your soul has experienced. In my personal experience, through my own and in facilitating others' past life regressions, I've personally seen how the subconscious holds more than this life. It's something I cannot and will not ignore. The subconscious is the system that runs most of your behavior automatically, which is why you can drive home without thinking about every turn, or repeat the same reaction in a relationship before you even realize you're doing it. This system isn't asking questions. It's running programs. And those programs were built from everything you've experienced in your life and everything that your soul holds, in my personal opinion. Underneath all of that, there's also the unconscious mind. This is the part of your mind and body that runs the things you never have to think about at all. Your breathing, your heartbeat, your digestion, your nervous system constantly scanning the world around you. Much of it operates through deeper systems in the brain, like the amygdala and other networks in the limbic system. The unconscious isn't speaking in words. It's speaking through sensations, instincts, and reactions your body makes before your mind has time to explain them. So, even though we don't hear it like a voice, The unconscious deeply influences us, especially through our nervous system. It can trigger automatic reactions long before we're consciously aware. Now we move into the emotional layer. This is where structures like the amygdala and the hippocampus live inside what scientists call the limbic system. This part of the brain helps decide what matters emotionally, what feels safe, what feels threatening, and what experiences get stored in memory. Which means some of the reactions you experience aren't coming from conscious thought at all. They're coming from emotional patterns your brain learned long ago. And there's yet another layer. Your brain has a filtering system that decides what information actually reaches your awareness. It's called the reticular activating system, or the RAS. Your brain receives millions of pieces or sensory information every second, but you only become aware of a tiny fraction of them. So this system filters reality based on what your brain believes is important. And that filter is shaped by the questions you ask yourself and the beliefs you hold. I've personally experienced this. Less than an hour after talking about my respect and fear of the ocean with someone, I walked into the ocean and walked out with a shark hook in my foot. Your brain works a lot like a search engine. If you ask it, "Why do I suck so bad?" your brain will start pulling up memories and experiences that support that idea. Moments you failed, moments you embarrassed yourself, moments you felt not good enough. But if you ask it a different question, "Where have I proven myself capable before?" your brain will begin pulling up a completely different set of memories. Moments of resilience, moments you figured something out, moments you handled something difficult. Same brain, different query. The brain isn't necessarily searching for truth. It's searching for answers to the question you asked. And with all of this, there's something else many people eventually experience. The part of themselves that can observe the entire process. The part I refer to as the observer. The part that notices your thoughts. The part that can step back and say, "Wait, this isn't me. This is just what my body is experiencing in this moment." It's the part of us that can be detached while still remaining intact. If you've ever caught yourself observing your own thoughts, or allowed your emotions to flow without letting them dictate your actions, you've already experienced this layer. It's when you can recognize you are not just the thoughts or emotions, but the awareness behind them. So when people ask, "Who am I?" what they're often really asking is, which voice inside me is actually mine? The ego, the patterns, the emotional reactions, the questions running in the background. Because the inevitable truth is, the voice in your head never disappears. But how you choose to respond to it can change everything. And when you learn to recognize the different voices, they can all serve you. So maybe the real question isn't, "Who the fuck am I?" Maybe the question is, which part of me is speaking right now and why? And once you start noticing that, something clicks. You realize that not every thought you hear inside your head is actually you. And you stop being so hard on yourself. And you start accepting that you're imperfectly perfect, even if you're a work in progress. Because that is exactly what being human is. And that is who the fuck you are.